behind the train, so she should be here any second now.
We just got we just got 3 years.
Okay, the work session, we just began the work session. The mayor is blocked by the train, she's doubling back. She should be a few minutes late getting here, but we'll proceed on. A1, first item is the 2025 regular city council meeting schedule. Teresa, catch your name on the,
Yes, so sorry. I apologize.
here comes the mayor.
Okay, so every year about this time, you as a body vote on the next meeting's calendar. This year, after much discussion going back and forth, the preference was to separate the work session and the council meeting. And then we looked at different options. It seems that the attached option, which is leaving the meetings at 6 p.m. on the second Tuesday of the month, but moving the work session to 10 a.m. on the first Tuesday of the month, was the option that everyone seemed to work most for everyone on council. We also decided, instead of having all of the millage rate and budget workshop calendar meetings being special called meetings, that we would go ahead and add those to the calendar so that they would be regular meetings. And then there was a concern that with the school board calendar for Carroll County, having spring break be at the same time as the April meeting would have been scheduled, that for public engagement, to optimize everyone's ability to attend, then in April only we would bump the meeting back to be on the first Tuesday of the month.
I don't know if we're gonna, how much discussion we want to have on this, because we did discuss it during our workday. But just so you'll know, I did hear from Councilwoman McCoy. She is still in Atlanta, working. We'll try to get here if she can. But verbally, she told me, well, no, I have it in writing, that if you want to put it on the consent agenda, she's agreeable to that schedule.
Okay, one item, you have the November meeting yelled in. Why was that?
The November meeting this year, I believe I pointed out at the meeting where you looked at all the options, Veterans Day is going to fall on your November meeting. And it was decided to leave the meeting on that date, but it is yellowed out just as a highlight to let you know that that is indeed Veterans Day. Most of the Veterans Day celebrations and ceremonies that I am aware of are during the day, earlier in the day, not in the evening. So,
Okay, thank you.
My question would be, aren't y'all not here?
we are not.
That might matter. So we still, it's on there. We have the option of changing it as we get closer if we decide
And
to.
if you decide to change it, I, of course, then can notice it in the paper and make sure that that change is out there publicly.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't want to go ahead and make that change now?
You can, if you would like to amend it, you would just make the motion to, well, now it's going on consent. Can they change the motion before this evening?
If they're all in agreement on what the calendar should be, then they could put the calendar on the consent.
I don't have a calendar in front of me to look at what Tuesday that would be if you bumped it. I apologize. No, rewind.
That's the
Yeah.
second Tuesday, but, what would we do with that? Would we move it a day or two, or would we try a whole week?
I'm sorry. Okay.
It'd be up to us.
That would be on election day. If you go back to the first Tuesday for November, then you would be having it on election day, which is the 4th.
And we have a work session on that day.
Yeah, you would have the work session on that one. You would either decide to have the work session on the same day, or you could move the work session back to October.
Well, the work session would be the one that's on election day?
Yeah. It is.
Yes.
Does anybody see an issue with that?
I
I mean,
don't.
there's early voting, there's the whole rest of the day to vote.
There will be 3 of you on the 3 of the positions on the ballot next year. So it will be wards 3, 4, and 5.
It won't be the first time we've met on election day. I remember 2 or 3 of those.
Just making sure, full
Yeah, we've done it
disclosure,
before,
that you
haven't we?
have all the information.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Anyone opposed to making this a consent item?
No problem.
Okay. That should be all right, because even though Councilman Montahan isn't here, this is all the one we discussed prior.
And then the next item is actually Councilwoman McCoy's recommendation. This is, I don't know where she stands, if she communicated with you, if she
You
wanted
don't have
this to
anyone?
wait. No, we do. She
Oh,
has given me
yes,
the
yeah.
name.
Okay.
And after reviewing all of the active applications, she wants to recommend Kelly Vines to fill the unexpired term of Marilyn Glass. And that would be the recommendation to fill the Ward 4 Planning and Zoning Commission seat. I don't know if you want to wait to have any discussion with her whenever she's here this evening.
She did relay that name to me, and however, I kind of feel like the council person should be here to recommend their person, so if y'all are fine with it, I'd say let's hold off on that so she can actually, present her person to herself. She'll be here.
Exactly.
And say why
yes.
she chose that person or whatever. Okay.
I just wanted to,
You didn't know how many
Present
things
it,
you were
yes.
going to have to present today,
Right.
did you? All right, item 3, Hickory Level Road Sewer Easement Abandonment. Mr. Drummond.
Yes, so in the past, the city had been granted a sewer easement that traverses through this property. The original easement was December 9th, 2000. There's been recent work in that easement. They've actually granted us a new easement on June 5th, 2023, and rerouted some of the utilities so that a portion of the old easement is no longer needed at all. So the developers asked us if we would abandon that portion. We've got a new survey. I passed out an updated cover sheet just because between my first cover sheet and today, we've gotten a new survey in, so it highlights the portion of the easement to be abandoned. It's just 2 small sections. And as I said, the city no longer needs that. We've been granted a new easement. Everything's been placed into the new easement. There would be no need for a public hearing if everybody agrees to it.
Okay. Any discussion? Anyone opposed to making that consent item number 2? I need to get my pen out so I know these. All right, number 4, extension of temporary moratorium on multifamily developments. Ms. Shabazz.
Good afternoon, Mayor and
Afternoon.
council members. On May 14th, 2024, council approved a temporary moratorium on multifamily developments within the city. The moratorium was for 180 days and will expire in November. Staff recommends to allow the moratorium to expire due to the low number of developable lots that require entitlement.
I was told this cover sheet was going to get changed, that it was incorrect, that we were not moving for it to expire, but to extend it, because I questioned that during,
We're extending the vape and tattoo shops, not the, you should have.
this
the-
is the specific one I asked about.
I had a question about it too, because you're working on text amendments and
Mhm.
I don't know how long it would take me to look at the email right now to back up what I'm saying. So you're telling me that staff is recommending that we let the moratorium expire?
Let the more.
Okay, hold on, I'm getting,
Yeah, you're referring to the email that Diana sent on Friday, and she said, I wanted to mention a few items. The staff recommendation is to extend the moratorium for multifamily housing. I cannot speak as to why the wrong cover sheet was uploaded, but that we are aware of this conflict and it is being corrected today. So that was Friday.
okay.
So it would be for recommendation to extend.
we're looking at something that says just the opposite.
I don't know where, because we've talked about this too. It looks like once a survey of the available multifamily parcels left in the city, there's just not many left. And,
There's about 2 or 3.
2 or 3
So-
left. So just to clear up the disconnect, let's go ahead and, I would suggest going ahead and extending it, but we may terminate it early at this point. But it doesn't sound like there's many available lots, period, that are available for multifamily. So someone would have to go through rezoning to get a multifamily development, which,
If it weren't in that 2 and 3, and that was the email that I wrote, that was my concern, that I would be actually advocating against letting the moratorium expire, because we're saying there still are 2 or 3.
there are 2 or 3.
And the whole reason for the moratorium is for those not to get activated until we knew what was left and had some options as to what we might want to do about that before they could possibly become active, as though we don't have enough things popping up right now. So,
In addition to that, Mayor, it said the staff is currently working on text amendments to update language. We shouldn't be extending it when we're fixing to change some of the language pertaining to the multifamily units.
so ditto what Councilman Carter is saying. If we don't have that wording done yet, why don't we wait till the wording's done and the amendments have been made before we
Yeah.
would let it expire?
I don't see any harm extending it for a short period of time to allow that to happen. And, you know, the current staff is looking hard at a lot of changes to the zoning ordinance.
Mhm.
But we've just had a lot of changes in staff lately, so that they're taking over new jobs and looking at it, and I think you'll see some changes soon.
Right. The other thing is because, well, the impetus for this also was because I did send over, there was like 2 or 3 parcels that were already allowed to be multifamily by right, because I believe your email asked how many parcels are there available that someone wouldn't have to come in, they don't have to do a rezoning.
Right.
They were just allowed. And so that was what the question that I answered. There was like 3 parcels. So that's why the number was so small, that now, since we are working on, text amendments and a process that's going to shift a little bit, that they would have to get will serve letters because of capacity issues and things like that. Our processes were going to change a little bit too, but because there was so few, there was only like 2 or 3 parcels that kind of fell into that. we felt that we wouldn't necessarily have to have a moratorium because they would require will serve letters and have to show that they have actual capacity, capacity for their development.
Okay, so I'm still confused because the question I had is who can come and by right build multifamily without needing to come to us? In other words, they would be with the zoning that they would currently have, would not have to come before us for any approval. That's all I cared about, was what was left in that state. If there's 2 or 3 that you're saying already have approval, that wasn't really my question. If they already have approval, we really can't stop it unless they need a variance or maybe they haven't gotten far enough along to get the letter for that we have the capacity with water, sewer, whatever it is. My goal in proposing this back in June was to put the brakes on the explosive growth we were having because we have so much going up right now, it's surpassing our infrastructure.
Right.
And we have a lot of apartments, townhouses, everything coming on board, along with a massive number of single-family houses. So, council discussion and what y'all think.
I don't think we can put this on consent because it says it allows the moratorium to expire, and I don't agree with that. Until we get through with the text changes, I don't think we should be expiring this thing. I think we extend it and continue until we're through with that before we make a decision to terminate it.
Any other discussion at this time? Okay, so we'll move this this will go on to the evening meeting. Here we go. The other fun one. All right.
Okay, moving on to the next one.
Number 5, extension of temporary moratorium on vape shops, tattoo parlors, and pawn shops. And Ms. Shabazz, I'm sorry, is the reason we did it this way is because they're all lumped together in our ordinance?
They are,
Okay.
yeah. And
All right,
so
thank you.
we did want this one extended because we figured that it would deserve a lot more discussion than the multifamily, but we are recommending that this one be extended simply because we have to, kind of ask like what direction do we want to go in? Do we want to, not allow or, allow under certain conditions and, that are much more stringent than there are right now. And plus I wanted to also start having some workshops that you all can kind of look at the text amendments and kind of decide what language you like, or, should be more restrictive or less restrictive. And so that since that hasn't occurred, we decide, we thought it would be best to extend the moratorium on that, just so we can have a little bit more time to figure out which direction would probably be best suited for the city to go in.
So even though we did the moratorium on vape shops, it included the other 3. Are we also looking to have changes done in the other 2 other than the vape? Remember the vape
Yeah.
shops were like, what, they could be 500 yards
Yeah.
apart or something like that?
Vape shops are fairly new to deal with, but pawn shops and tattoo parlors have been around a while. And the reason they're on here is before we had a downtown overlay district, and those were not allowed in the downtown overlay district. And then in the last few years, we updated our ordinances and the downtown overlay district disappeared. So there were restrictions on locations before with the downtown overlay district. We realized that was a problem.
That's right.
That's why we created the moratorium, so we could fix that problem.
Okay, that's right, because I remember the years back, and listen, for everybody that loves a tattoo place and everything else, sometimes we feel differently about it when it's your historical downtown. And I think that's where that came into play. We did have a tattoo parlor down here, and people just felt like that wasn't fitting for our historic area. Not that there's anything wrong with the business or anything else, just I think the location. Discussion? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 3? Thank you.
Thank you.
Building development. Item number 1, downtown parking lot update. Mr. Griffin. I keep looking over there, looking there and you're over here. Haven't gotten used. Is that just for the work session that we're doing? Oh, that's right, because of the doors there and people going in and out and all the background. Okay, got it.
Hey, good afternoon. This item is just a brief little update on the progress that we've made so far on the parking lot behind us. And,
Is that on?
oh, I'm sorry. There it goes. Check, check.
Oh, that's a lot
Shouldn't be
better.
messing around. Okay, so this item is just a brief update on the progress that we've made so far in the parking lot for downtown and the WIC building move and its location currently. For the past few months, the city departments have been working together on this project, which has been really nice. We've been working with Public Works, distribution, and grounds maintenance, getting the parking lot graded and prepared for asphalt paving, curb and gutter, and retention of any of the water shed that occurs from this property. There's been a total of 3 walls poured, and those are around the perimeter of the site, which act as a curb and gutter. It is directing water flow to our pond, which we are building, and the pond itself will be a bioretention pond. So we're building that. We've just made it a little bit bigger. The good news is that we have reduced the impervious surface of that site. We're under an acre. And so we are going to have less water impact or watershed impact on any of the parcels down below us. Staff has received 3 bids for the sidewalk and curb work. Classic Curb came in as that low bid. They're actually out there pouring curbs right now. And we think it's going to be a really good finished product. City staff has managed and self-performed a lot of the work, especially involving the WIC building itself. We've had to do electrical repairs and plumbing and tie it all back together. So we've had to paint where the joints were and caulk that. We've done a lot of trim work. We're also doing some data cable work that just occurred because we had to split the building into 3 pieces. And so a lot of those components had to be disconnected and then reinstalled. The sewer has been ran. We have power to that building as of today. Georgia Power came out and made that tie-in, installed the meter. So that's good news. So we've got water and power, and we're making hay on this. Administration has been directing and approving all of this work. Last year, the city council approved a total of $60,000 for this parking lot improvement, but it was originally planned to be just gravel. No formal plans for the site yet, but we did know we had a need for additional parking downtown, especially when events were happening. This is a capital improvement for the mill. The associated costs will have and will come out from the TAD fund. And nearing the completion of this project, staff anticipates a total amount to be spent around $173,150. That's just for the parking lot. And the WIC building itself has accrued some construction costs, as I just went over, and we're expecting to need about another $20,000 to finalize that, get it ready for occupancy, and invite staff back to that building.
Teresa, would you mind scrolling that up so people can see the construction site?
So that's what it was, and that was after we removed the community service building, and we were just kind of using it for aggregate overflow. That was taken this morning, so that's our.
Oh, that's just this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's our curb getting formed up and poured. There's going to be an interior sidewalk along connecting both those medians. We're going to have ADA parking near the building and then also near the street connection. So we're going to have sidewalk. If you'll scroll down just a little bit more, you'll see.
That's
what
what
the
I
final
want people
product
to
will
see,
look
that
like.
there's landscaping, that there's sidewalk there.
It'll be very, very nice landscaping. We're going to have Georgia Power install two light poles in the center medians. We'll also put on some wall packs on the WIC building to kind of illuminate everything. And then up along this concrete wall, we're going to have some split rail, like metal fencing, decorative fencing that matches back behind the PD. So we're getting bids on that currently. And that's about where we're at.
Is there plan, and I don't recall if I heard this for at any time, and I don't know if there's room left, because I know the pond is going back there somewhere. Is there any plan for additional restrooms there, or is that something we'll probably just add over at the mill itself?
There has been talks and some minor planning of restrooms and a little pavilion space in front of the pond, and it will be separated by a fence. So we're going to have some green space to the right of the WIC building, enough for possibly a little playground, a little interaction area for anybody visiting downtown, and then possibly a pavilion and 2 restrooms.
Okay. So I think if you get out here and look at this now and then imagine what it will look like with this drawing, some landscape, some sidewalk, you can see that this will probably be the beginning of improving this whole section downtown. There's plans for what will be done on the backside here between the police station, Los Cowboys, and I think you'll see that transform, I hope. Well, maybe a year is too soon, but we'll get started this year. It will definitely get started, especially with this. And if you walk back there now, it's not the most pleasant-looking area, but this is the beginning of starting to improve the downtown area and add the parking that we needed. So, any discussion from council? Because this is just an update, so unless there's questions, there's no motion or decision. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, going on to the next update we have for you. Staff was asked to put together kind of a brief little synopsis of what we've done, and how we got there, and where we are now. So this item is involving the downtown service, the Development Services Building, which was Fellowship Hall over at 206 North Avenue, and also the basketball downtown gym. It's not just a basketball gym. There's quite a bit of uses that has already been applied to that building. And so to kind of give an update, initially when we purchased these properties, we were directed to go and evaluate and inspect these properties and come up with a game plan to mitigate all the damages that were current, some of the water intrusion, any kind of hazard that was present at the time. The goal was just to kind of get them sealed up and ready for occupancy at the least expensive or efficient manner. So we did do that. Staff began working in the basketball gym first. There was various water damages. There's a lot of vandalism because that building had gotten broken into. So we mitigated those. We performed some electrical repairs, plumbing repairs, and HVAC repairs. Staff also self-performed a lot of that work and managed any of the subcontractors that came in. Once staff achieved making these buildings a safe environment to occupy, the intent of the buildings was kind of decided at that point. The recreation was going to be the custodian for the basketball gym, and we kind of suffered a loss when the Villa Rica Elementary basketball gym was demolished. The recreation department was using that.
The
quite
one
a
that
bit.
they used to have to mop up with towels during the game.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It kinda
we got a
needed
better
to go.
product here. And so that intent was decided, and we began, getting quotes for various work from subcontractors, and we needed to get new backboards and a retractable goal on one end, and the backboards now oscillate up and down so we can entertain all types of ages of basketball teams and sports. We've remodeled the kitchenette and the bathrooms, kind of done the same deal. We also installed a camera system. And once we completed that project, the recreation department took it over. That basketball gym was rented out to a lot of camps. It's occupied pretty well throughout the week, especially in the summer. So I know they're doing karate there. They're having basketball practices and a variety of other events. So that is starting to create revenue. Once we completed that, we moved over to the Fellowship Hall. And that was a complete gut job. It was a complete remodel. We had a lot of water damage in the roof. We had, it was intended for a fellowship hall, but it had been not well maintained. So we've remodeled the kitchen downstairs. We've created a really great event space with nice trim accents, things like that. We've remodeled the bathrooms. Upstairs, we've created office space for the Development Services Building, which is 2 different departments that encompasses community development and also building development. So like I said, it was a complete gut job. We've had to do new network, new walls, new roof, gutters, soffit, fascia. We began painting once we got everything framed up, and drywall work. And the full scope of the project really encompass just about everything you would from the ground up, besides just having a shell of the building. So we've been working on these projects since the time of the purchase. The council approved funding for renovating the building the building's landscaping and also funding for having a poured rubber floor in the gym. That's going to accommodate pickleball and a few other events and sports. City administration approved the total remodel cost of $398,868 for both buildings. Being managed and performed internally, this equates to about $22.92 a square foot for renovation costs. Sorry, I'm reading off. I usually just kind of wing it. The city uses an ICC valuation for budgetary permitting and licensing purchases. And using this valuation, the buildings have a combined valuation of $3,541,600. And that's based off a square footage price from the ICC chart.
How nice to have people on staff with so many of these skills, carpentry, electrical, and everything, that we were able to do so much of that in-house. It looks really good. And not having some of y'all halfway across town. No, all the way across town. And I think it probably makes it a lot better. Are y'all getting compliments from citizens that they don't have to drive clear across town for one thing and then come back to City Hall for another? So I hope it's working out real well for staff, because that is, it looks great. Has everyone seen it?
I haven't seen it lately, but
I
when
knew
do
we
you,
were there for the ribbon cutting. That's the
what's
first.
the anticipated completion date for all the work we are doing over there?
Over at the Fellowship Hall building and the basketball gym is essentially done.
They
It's
are
completed,
done.
except for the landscaping and then
What about
poured
the rubber floor and all that?
We've got to put that out for bid formally. So once we do that, we can probably see that happening in the next couple months.
And the rubber floor can be, that's where you will have pickleball, but also can have a vast, that's where the basketball and everything is, right? Yeah. So you could have pretty much anything in there. You can bring up the hoops and turn it into an event space or whatever you want to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Absolutely.
multi-purpose.
It is
Okay.
very multi-purpose.
This is just an update, so we'll all know. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. You're also covering Meadowlark Drive, number 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this also just an update?
No, this does require a vote if
Oh, yes, okay, yes.
Council-
There it is. Mhm.
and I need to update that motion sheet. I have a motion. I've added it into the work session.
Yeah, we have a blank motion here.
We can wing it.
Okay. I have a motion if you'd like to reopen that Meadowlark Drive, but I'll kind of go through the whole spiel. During a council meeting held on December 14th, 2021, MMCC LLC applied for the rezoning of 3 parcels. These parcels are the land that Alta, which is known as Dorsey and built by Wood Partners, that's where those multifamily apartments are built on. The council granted the rezoning with the condition that the developer shall reopen Meadowlark Drive if permitted and approved by the city and the school board. Alta by Wood Partners is nearing the completion of their final building and obtaining COs and all their final documents that they have to turn in. They've submitted as-built and will be submitting their final plat soon. Staff has heard the school board, and the school board has sent a letter wishing to have this extension reopened. So that is attached and it's pulled up. In consideration of the school board's wishes and the desire to work well together, staff is recommending reopening Meadowlark Drive extension. We did send out certified notices via the mail to let everybody on Meadowlark and Clearview know that this was being presented today. It's not required for a public hearing, or a public hearing is not required. I apologize. And so the impact, opening up this Meadowlark Drive will grant access to the high school, the residential area, and also the rear of the Alta. This could potentially alleviate some traffic and congestion that occurs on 78 and Clearview. This could also cause some congestion at the intersection of Meadowlark and Commerce Drive. I don't think very much, but those are the 2 pros and cons to that. And I do, like I said, if council wishes and they would like to make a motion to reopen Meadowlark Drive, I have a copy right here.
Okay, so we've been expecting this for a while. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time with the apartments going in there and everything else. It'll be interesting to see how this impacts Rocky Branch. We're right, the school especially flowing out that way, although they can go down Clearview as well. This will give, what, 3 3 or 4. I can't think of how South Street connects, goes up and comes over toward the school and connects into Clearview, is that right?
Yes, and there is
So-
another street beside the fire department that's going to connect to Commerce Drive, South Street, so for that.
Yeah.
So there will be a lot of interconnectivity there.
So the interconnectivity in general is a really good thing. I think what we'll be watching for is how the kids are driving as they're leaving, and if we'll need to do some additional mitigation on some of those other streets
Right.
with slowing down the traffic in case they're so eager to leave school at a very fast speed or come to school.
Yes, ma'am.
They're usually going slower when they're coming to school than when
That's
they're
right,
departing.
yeah. Not as eager. If this is approved and voted on and passed, the developer will be responsible for the construction costs. They'll have to follow all city street standards with full curbs and gutters. There may be some stormwater drainage issues that have to be mitigated. So the developer will pay for the engineering services for the street design, the water mitigation issues, and they'll have to submit those to be approved by city staff. And once approved, the extension will remain private until it's fully built and inspected and then adopted by the city.
So I guess that means the motion is to reopen Meadowlark Drive with the conditions, condition of the staff.
I have one question. It has a little bit with the history of this. I mean, it's great that the developer is going to have to pay for those things, but that's because they're going to benefit from Meadowlark being open. Was there a time that we thought that they were all going to be coming out the front? This is telling me they'll be exiting somewhere else other than the front of the apartments?
There may have been some misinformation kind of spread regarding that, but in the civil plans, it was always approved and intended for them to exit out the rear.
Okay.
And also we had to have two, the fire marshal required that second exit because of the.
I see. I think that's an issue with another place in town too. So they have both, but it's still gated.
It is, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Questions, council?
It looks like the
Comments?
motion has 5 conditions attached to it, so. This needs to be in the record. Did you have this, Teresa? Because ours doesn't have it.
I was standing in for the meeting tonight, so if you put it on consent, then it will be
Okay.
attached to the item.
Is everyone familiar with the conditions? Me either. So,
Let me read them.
yeah, since we can't look at them, yeah. Go ahead.
The
Thank you.
conditions, the developer is responsible for the construction. The developer is responsible for the construction cost. The extension shall build to city street standards with full curbs and gutters. Developer will submit full engineering drawings that shall be approved by staff prior to construction. The extension will remain a private drive until such time as inspected and accepted by council as a city street.
Okay, so it's pretty much what Mr. Griffin was telling us they would have to do, and we won't accept it as a city street until all those conditions are met. Okay,
And just
that's
to-
pretty clear,
just to
'cause
be
you
very
reviewed that.
clear, the developer and PEC design reopening and includes potential drainage improvements.
Okay,
And that'll be, obviously reviewed and, commented on by staff while we're doing the civil plan review.
anyone opposed to making this consent item number 4? Okay, that'll be consent item number 4. Moving to Human Resources, Ms. Jenkins. Holiday schedule. That's a popular one.
It's still Ms.
With
Jenkins,
staff
yes.
anyway.
Haven't changed it yet. Good afternoon. I am presenting the holiday schedule for 2025. Attached is the chart that shows, these are the normal holidays that we've had for the last couple of years, just updated with the current dates for 2025.
We went over this also at our workday, where we had the whole half a day workday.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments regarding this? Anyone opposed to this being consent item number 5?
Nope.
Okay. All right, number 2, first responder PTSD policy.
Yes. So in May of this year, House Bill 451 was passed and the governor signed it, which requires all entities that have first responders that we have additional coverage for PTSD diagnosis. So GERMA has gathered all of our first responder information and has provided us with a quote to offer this policy. It would have to be in effect January 1st of 2025. And the policy has 2 components, which is required by House Bill 451. One is lifetime critical illness lump sum PTSD benefit diagnosis. And number 2 is the lifetime long-term PTSD disability benefit, which is an income replacement. So in this bill, if we have a first responder that receives a PTSD diagnosis, it would have to result from a traumatic event while working for us, for the entity, and it would have to take place July 1st, 2023 or after. So they sent us an estimate, which is the annual estimate that they're giving us at the moment. It is $8,584, and we would pay that on a semi-annual basis.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, it's a state bill, and this is what we're doing.
It's a requirement,
Yeah.
yes, if we have first responders. Yeah. So I got with Jennifer, and she said that this would be charged to the general fund on the contingency, since it's not something we were able to budget for necessarily, like a dollar amount.
Is there anyone opposed to putting this on the consent agenda, being that the state will require us to consent so, one way or another? Okay, that'll be consent item number 6.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Library, Dr. Lynn. Hey,
How are you?
good, thank you.
So just some background on this. The University of Alabama has awarded the Villa Rica Public Library $3,500 to facilitate their collaboration with the Carver High Experience. We've done this for several years now in February. So the Carver High Experience is a museum exhibit that details the history of school segregation and desegregation in Carroll County. And hundreds of community members as well as school groups visited the display last year and learned about this important aspect of local history. And the grant will be used to create new display materials and some programs.
And there's no strings attached. I mean, this comes directly from the University of Alabama that do y'all put together the display, or it's something they give you the funding to be able to do it because it's based on the Carver experience,
Right.
which was here?
Yeah, it's a partnership grant, so we had to partner with a local community group. So we're working with them to upgrade their materials, but then we receive the benefit of having all the patrons come in, and then also the aspects of local history. We're hoping to get some more oral histories through this program as well.
What a nice thing to get from them. I'll try not to mention what they did to LSU this past weekend. Roll Tide.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think, we have to,
Do the thing.
any questions?
We'll
Anybody
take-
want to turn down free money to
No,
give a
we'll
historical
take it.
experience to students having to do with the Carver High experience?
We'll do it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We'll make that consent item number 7. Is this the chief who's doing Motorola portable radios? Oh, Betacoffer.
Hello. I'm
Afternoon.
Lieutenant Mike Betacoffer with Patrol. And I'm requested a budgeted item of Motorola radios, a total of 4 of them for duty use. In addition, I'm asking for equipment to fund and equip a special response team.
Okay, we need to take them one at a time.
Oh,
Got 'em
okay.
listed.
Yeah, hang on one second. Mine's buffering too. I'm
Sorry
trying to
about that.
open it and it's,
They're listed separately. So we had.
Although I have no
one by one.
questions written down, I have a check mark on my worksheet. I just can't get my screen to open up. Any questions about the radios, portable radios? It's budgeted.
My only problem is we're into a pattern here of sole sourcing things. I don't see anything ever being bid out.
So with these radios, they're the single company that we've used. It's the same equipment, and it'll run off of all the equipment we have inside the cars, and the equipment or the attachments like radio mics and other things that would go. So it's really a proprietary item, the radios are.
So when you're talking sole source, it's because everything matches up, repairs, works with everything we already have. So is there ever a time that we check just to see and look at, I'm not encouraging it one way or another, just asking, because there might be a super legitimate reason to stay with that one source because of the consistency and everything works together.
And that's usually the case. There was a couple years ago where there was another manufacturer that was looked at for those radios. The issue with that is you'd find separate dead spots, and by dead spots I mean places where you can't get out with the portable radios because they don't have the same equipment inside or the same guts inside that those Motorola's do for whatever reason. So if you go through too many of those, and really it working is key, it's life or death for us. So we stick with what works, and that's the Motorola.
So it's a quality issue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Comments? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 8?
Nope.
All right, special response team.
Okay, next up is the special response team and the equipment. This is a budgeted item, and this would be to equip the team with uniforms, helmets, and attachments, the communications for the radios, the headsets, flashbangs, heavy vests, ballistic, the Halligan tool, which is an entry tool, and command training for new commanders.
If I recall from what I read, part of the reason a main reason that we're looking to do this is because otherwise we're having to wait on other agencies that we do. I'm looking at Chief at the same time to see if I see a nod, but you probably know it. That agreement is that we've had things happen and we can't activate until we have those other departments or entities respond as well, which delays, say, for example, would this come into play? Say you have a school shooting and we have certain equipment, but we would possibly be delayed because we're waiting for the other agencies that have the response team that we don't, or the equipment that we don't. Is that accurate based on the information I was reading?
Yes, so there's been a couple instances just in the short time that I've been here where we've requested a special response team or a SWAT team from 2 separate counties, and we've had issues with one of them saying that they can't show up, period, at all. One with a significant delayed response, and the other we had to wait on GSP, and that's about a 2-hour turnaround time when they send their scout. On top of that, we're state certified agency, so what that means is we play by rules that other people may not, and they're a lot more strict, and that makes it a lot more professional. If we have our own team and we follow under these rules that we are guided by now, then we know what kind of response that we're getting out of our people that we train and we have in-house. So response time's great and professionalism great.
So would this also apply, say you have someone barricaded in a house, they have a hostage, this is the type of team you would use for that, and we don't have that kind of setup right now? Correct. Is that, okay. Questions from council?
Okay, this one gave me a little bit more heartburn than the other one. The other one didn't give me any heartburn.
It was easy.
But this one is located 6 different companies now. $385, not a big deal. But when you get up into the $44,000 range, did we shop around, or these all look like sole source selections?
So Armor Express is who we use now, and that's the vests that we have. You'll find if you go through different vest vendors that the sizing will be off, and it seems like it's a minuscule thing to pay attention to, but you wouldn't believe the amount of vests that are returned, and then the cost of that turnaround. if we're with a company, the quality of that product and the quality of their sizing is extremely important. If not, there'll be a regular fit, and it'll cause issues in protection. So sticking with those, plus our attachments that go on those vests, are all the same, so we don't lose out any money by having to go back and get additional equipment.
Well,
They match with
as long
what
as
we
we're
currently
keeping our eyes open, as you know, when you spend $44,000 of people's money, they want to make sure that you don't have competitors with the same product. You might have someone that could supply the identical thing cheaper.
No, absolutely. The issue with the vests are they're very similar in price, but with your vests, if they already have our sizes and our relationship with them, the turnaround time, you'll go to different vest vendors and they could say, hey, it's going to take 3 months for you to get this vest. And there's some that will promise you the world, and it'll be a year before you get any vest for those turnaround times. So there might be additional places to get those, but I not at that cost.
Did we go out and look?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
We did the research,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And how about for the galls and the ISP? That's $16,000 items.
So we use Galls. It's already a vendor, and those also, their turnaround time to get uniforms for them. We looked at SPD as well, and they were higher. Galls is just better all the way around for service, and their price is better.
Okay, so we did research, but we didn't ask for other people to bid on these things.
So we got prices, and those bids, when we submitted this, the bids were a little bit out of date, so I didn't submit that with that, but we did get additional bids or additional prices.
Okay, that would be of interest to us to see if you do take different bids for the same item. We'd be interested in seeing that kind of data.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? And do you want to carry this over, or are you ready to consent on this item? Okay. Anyone opposed to this being consent item? No. Okay, it's going to be a nice meeting, maybe. Consent item number 9. Thank you, Lieutenant. Public Works, discussion right turn in and right turn out of Commerce Drive and 78. This is right over by CVS that we've talked about a lot. Okay. Mr.
Yes.
Birch.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hal Birch, Public Works Director. Obviously,
Oh, thank you for remembering that. Y'all, because I'm not thinking about everybody doing that, and people appreciate it if they're watching, or, thank you. Right.
So this is a discussion item. We just wanted to bring this back up. If you recall, it was tabled after the last month's meeting. The cover sheet was not edited per se, because the purpose really is to just update you on what communications we've had with Georgia Department of Transportation. So we did reach out to them, and we did get a response from them that they were more than happy to have us go ahead and do something of this nature, but they were not inclined to do the study and to do the and to install, the separation of the right turn on both sides from their side, because they're going to be installing a roundabout at Rocky Branch and one at the corner of the intersection of 61 and 78. And in between those two, if you look at the map that is included in the packet, it's going to show that they will be installing a median between those two roundabouts, which will accomplish that very thing. So their rapid response, funding has already been exhausted, but they do have it slated for, I believe, 2027. So within 2 years, the roundabouts will be completed and the median will have been installed. Our recommendation really is that it doesn't make sense for us to spend $23,000 or $27,000 or whatever it is here, $23,000 to do a study, and then the additional cost of the installation of the median to have it removed by GDOT within 2 years and replaced with their product that they're going to be installing.
That makes sense, as long as they do it in 27.
That's what they're saying. It is scheduled, and they're saying it's.
Yeah, I think we
budgeted.
got
That was
those
the
updates
response
from GDOT, yeah.
We didn't approve any of this to be done. Why are we making a motion to deny this thing when we never approved to have it done?
Because we're proposing, I guess this is a proposal to possibly do it, and we are I don't know. Maybe because it was on
We're
the previous
proposing to do it,
agenda,
but
we
we don't
still had
deny.
to handle it in some sort of
We're
way.
proposing to do it, we're going to deny on proposal.
We either
Okay.
had to, this is putting it to rest if we decide that we're not going to do it. So
Okay.
guess we have to put it to rest. Any questions? Can we? Okay, so we'll make this consent item number 10. And just hope that people will be a little wiser about turning in and out of there until the roundabouts get done. I know, it seems like forever. And it's not something while you're talking about it, I'm going, is there any way we can do this with signage and it does seem a shame because it is a current problem that we will have for 2 more years. So I don't know if there's any other fix, but if somebody has an idea, share it. Because it is a problem, and 2 years is still a pain to put up with it. But I don't want to spend the money to put something in that's, by the time you pay for this and that, and then you get it in, you're probably halfway to when they're going to be doing the roundabout.
And being that it's a state route, whatever you do has to be to GDOT standards, so it
Yeah.
still has to be to their approval.
Okay, community parking lot.
Yeah, so this is the same parking lot that Nick was speaking about earlier. This is the quotes in the proposal to do the actual asphalt. So the purpose of adding an additional parking area to downtown is to accommodate the growing number of visitors to our Main Street area, which will enhance the overall experience of those visiting our local businesses and events. This expansion will alleviate parking congestion, reduce traffic, and make it easier for people to access our events and businesses. It will also promote a more organized and efficient parking management system, ensuring the safety and convenience of all attendees. Historically, parking has been a challenge during peak business hours and events in our downtown area. With the direction of our city manager, our streets department immediately began construction of the old stockyard behind the Villa Rica Police Department and has prepared the surface for paving. You will see that we had submitted for 4 quotes, and we had companies submit 4 quotes, and the prices are included. Our recommendation would be to enter into an agreement with Magnum Paving to complete the asphalt work for a total of $77,365.62. Magnum Paving is highly recommended and is also a local Villa Rica company. Now, I do recognize that this is not the lowest bid, but there are circumstances that sometimes dictate that you don't necessarily go with the lowest bid. And one of those examples certainly would be our Connors Road walking path or cart path that we experienced there. And we certainly spent, if you look at the difference between these 2 prices, we definitely spent more than that rectifying the situation out there between our personnel and then material that we had to use to finish that up. So that would be why the recommendation is not for the lowest bid. Certainly the impact will be to the improved parking situation will contribute to a safer environment for all attendees with a more organized and efficient parking management system. The risk of accidents and other safety hazards will certainly be reduced, and this will create a more enjoyable experience for those attending local businesses and events, contributing to the overall vitality and well-being of the local community.
I think we're going to find out too as whether it's Gabe's and some other businesses planned along this way. You'll see that Mr. Dickerson has been taking a third of the Jane's building, and you see how fixed up it is, ready for a pizza parlor. I can't promise that because I'm not in the weeds on how that is supposed to work out. But with those additional businesses, also even Lowe's Cowboys out here, you can see how the parking gets out here. So that'll be a big help, especially since there is proposed rear entry for a few things that will be going on Main Street to have that parking right over here. In addition to when we have the concerts and, the other special events downtown. Any questions from council? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 11?
No.
Thank you. Utilities, Mr. Bain.
Good afternoon, John Bain, Utilities Director. This first item is simply an addition to our current development regulations, specifically on the testing of low-pressure sewer systems. We have a couple of development projects taking place right now that includes the installation of low-pressure sewer systems. So we thought it wise to get something in our development regulations to allow for the testing of those moving forward. So at the time they're constructed, we will have the testing method in place that we can provide the contractor and developer on which to follow. So the actual regulation proposed is on the attached to the cover sheet, and we would include that in section 400 of our development regulations, which covers our sewer system.
Okay, so I already asked a question about this because this was totally unfamiliar to me. And I get what it is. You're talking about if there's a property that sets lower, that it has to have, this is for the sewer, it has to have on their property some sort of pump that helps push the sewer out because of the way the property is situated.
Yes, that's exactly it. We have some lots being developed that are at a lower elevation than are existing and the proposed gravity sewer system. And as an example, oftentimes these lots may be around lakes or other low-lying areas. So those particular lots will require a pump and a line that pumps up to essentially a community force main that flows into our gravity sewer system. And that's how lots at low elevations are able to be developed without the installation of additional lift stations. As an example, we wouldn't want to go through the expense of owning and operating and maintaining a wastewater lift station if, for example, there may be half a dozen or a dozen lots that would be tied onto it. It's more practical for each of these lots to have its own pump that pumps up to the gravity sewer system. And then when it hits the right-of-way, in any case, it becomes city responsibility to take it from the right-of-way and on a property on down.
Okay, so we have homes now that are on lakes.
Mhm.
What are they doing? Do we have any of this anywhere in the city now? And how is it functioning for the places it is now? Or it's the fact that there's so many houses, it makes it worthwhile to have a pump system, and we would do it that way?
There are a few lots, a few parcels in town that have their own residential pump that pumps up to our gravity sewer system. They're fairly scattered. There might be a couple in some quadrant, a couple somewhere else. Where this specifically speaks to is more of a community low-pressure system where in a new development there may be 10 or 15 or 20 lots that are adjacent, that all each lot would have its own pump that would pump up to a force main on the right-of-way where we would take it from there and it flows into the gravity sewer system. So this is for moving forward future properties that are being built. So this way we can require the developer and contractor to have all those systems tested prior to handing them over to the homeowner. So the homeowner doesn't inherit an issue, if you will. So this is for a community, a small area, or I should say a small part of a larger development, for them to each have their own pump that pumps it up the hill to the street, and then we take it from there.
Okay, so we have some of these that were built, but they're totally operated, in a sense, by the homeowner. We have nothing to do with the ones that, the few or several that we have around the city.
Yes.
So, but now we would, although we're trying, this is a testing system to make sure, see, I'm telling you, it's complicated, and I know I got the gist of what it was for, but before we move forward and do it, now, what is the issue with, okay, so if we do this, do we have examples of who else is doing this and how they did it and how it worked?
I don't have any with me.
Because this will be new for us, right? This is brand new.
Fairly new for the city. I've been with other utilities that initially did not have these low-pressure systems. We installed them, whether they were Environmental 1 or E1 as we call it, or a step system. In this case, what's currently being installed is called a step system, where there's a tank, a separate tank, essentially a septic tank, if you will, and the pumps are downstream from the septic tank that pump it up to our system, which means they don't need to have the drain fields, right? So it goes to a septic tank, then it's pumped up to our force main in our gravity sewer system.
So you've installed these before?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is no more than to test the product
Yeah,
before the
this-
homeowner takes over and finds he's got a problem.
Yes, the system had already been approved. Now the developer's here to develop the property. So what we needed to do was add to our development regulations that will require the appropriate testing of these systems as they're being built. So we know when they're handed off to us and the homeowner, they've been tested properly and installed properly. We didn't have a means in our development regulations to require the testing of these systems.
Yeah,
So this is just an
I agree.
addition.
This is to protect the homeowner and us, so. we
Yes,
don't-
absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Yeah, I was just trying. So ultimately, this is already approved to do in Villa Rica,
Yes,
to build this way. This is just to make sure that when they do it, it works for the people and for us,
Yeah.
that it
Yes.
brings it up to where we can catch it.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is just, it's a development regulation, just like if, we would say if you're gonna frame a building over concrete, you gotta use pressure-treated lumber. Just like that. It's just a standard so that, that's right.
Okay. Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 12? Oh, what did I miss? Oh. All right, that'll be 12. Shoreline Lift Station Redirect Change Order.
you may recall previously, we had budgeted $2 million towards the Shoreline Lift Station redirect project. Estimates were coming in about 10 to 15% higher than that as the project got further designed. We therefore went to more of a design build model, and this project was awarded to Tim Grizzard and Associates for $1.006 million. In doing this project, Tim Grizzard ran into significant rock in the area, which we expect some, which is how design build projects typically work. They come in a little low, and then it's as needed on what we see out there in the field during construction. So this proposed change order is for $140,000 for rock drilling and removal, which still brings the project an estimated $850,000 under budget.
Any questions from council? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 13? All right, water treatment, high service pump replacement. Ms. Lewis?
Hey, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Erin Lewis, Water Operations Manager.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this is to basically replace one of our high service pumps, the pump itself as well as the impeller and the shaft. The casing of the shaft also will be replaced with one that has bolted flange sections. Currently, the one that we are trying to replace had threaded couplings that when we ended up having to pull the whole entire pump out of our clear wheel to fix some stuff on it, they were, I can honestly say in the 18 years that I've been here, that's never been pulled before, so they were horrible to get off. They had to be cut off. So we want to do it with bolted flange sections to make it easier if this ever has to be done again. A little bit of background, we currently have 3 high service pumps, 2 small and 1 large. The one that we're trying to replace the pump for is one of our small ones. Last month, well, in September, we realized that when we were running this particular pump, the motor itself was starting to run hot. So since we had an extra motor, we decided to be proactive and replace it, and so we can get it cleaned, inspected, and all that. Well, once we took the motor off, we realized that we were having issues with the shaft, basically all the way down. It's almost in like 8 pieces. It's coupled together in 8 pieces. So once you took one section off and got the coupling off of that section, you realized that the threads were messed up on that, so you had to go to a lower section, and you're just having to completely just replace the whole entire thing. During this project, like I said, we ended up having to pull the whole entire pump, shaft, impeller, everything out of the clear well. We were only able to get one company to come out and do that work for us and to pull that section for inspection and everything, because of how the depth of the clear well, the pipe gallery, the whole entire setup, nobody really wanted to mess with it. So we were able to get Hydro Service to come out there, pull it for us. So we are recommending that we use Hydro Service to replace the pump, shaft, impeller, and all of that in the amount of $27,535. As it stands right now, we're currently down to 2 Hydro Service pumps, so it's extra wear and tear on the 2 that we do have.
Any questions from council? We pretty much have to do it.
Just to confirm, this isn't a rebuild of the motor. This is a
No,
completely
it's a
new.
complete new pump, and it's a complete new pump, shaft, impeller, everything.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm.
Yes, ma'am.
And it also includes an attachment change, is that what it is, in order to remove it?
Yes, it's it's replacing the complete shaft and everything, and then the casing that actually goes around the shaft down into the clear well, is changing that to one that has bolted flanged instead of couplings that can degrade and.
Okay, make it easy to remove
Yes,
next
sir.
time. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 14?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Community Development. Ms. Shabazz. No, Courtney. Whitney. Sorry, Whitney.
Afternoon, Mayor
Ms.
and Council.
Cox.
Whitney Cox,
I'll get
licensing
it straight.
specialist. This item is an alcoholic beverage license application for J.K. Brahmani LLC, doing business as Easy Quick Stop. The applicant, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Patel, is applying to sell retail packaged malt beverages and wine at the business location of 1607 West Highway 78, which is at the corner of North Van Wert and 78. The business is currently operating as a convenience store with gas pumps. Mr. Patel is applying for the license because the alcohol license that stands is non-transferable, and he's recently acquired ownership.
Yeah, that was a little confusing only because the previous owner was also Patel, right? But this is a new owner.
Correct. The current owner is actually our presumptive licensee for District 3 package store.
Mm-hmm.
So he has turned over ownership so he can focus on the construction of that new business.
I believe this owner is also local, if I recall, looking at the application.
Yes.
Not that they have to be, but it's just kind of nice
Yeah.
when somebody's local, because a lot of times they're keeping an eye on their business a little more
Right.
closely.
Yeah, he is a Villa Rica resident.
Any questions from council? This will require a public hearing. All righty, I
Thank
guess
you.
we'll do that one this evening. Number 2, special exception, Mr. Daniels.
That application has been withdrawn.
Okay, so do we have to do anything else other than this evening remove it from the agenda?
That's right, and I'd suggest just announcing it early because there were some people here at Planning and Zoning for that hearing, and I anticipate some people will show up just for this.
Okay, so I got an email out late to my group with the agenda. I usually try to get it out at least a day or two in advance. I didn't. I got it out probably an hour or so before I came down here. But I noted on that it was withdrawn. So if anybody is looking at that email, they would know this was going to get removed by the applicant. But they'll probably be coming back. They're looking at some other options, right? Or maybe changing some things.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to know about it at this point? Okay, all right. All right, so we'll need to alter the agenda. Mayor Pro Tem? You'll be ready to do that this evening? I love to delegate just a few things like that that I may not have to remember to do, that someone else will remember. Okay, item 3, VA-04-23-01, 924 Carrollton Villa Rica Highway. This is the variance. This is down where the swing sets and the sheds are. Just go south of Walmart on the left. Can't remember what that street is, near Bivens and Talbert, yep, okay.
So, Sean Daniels, Planner 1. So the applicant, Jerry Talbert, is seeking an annual variance review for the allowance of a 60-foot by 20-foot parking lot area for a storage sales operation. The property is 1.25 acres. It is currently zoned commercial C2, medium density. The business name is Four Seasons Portable Building Incorporated, and the lot is currently has a filling station on there, and the subject business is to the north of that. Like the mayor was saying, this operation is south of the Walmart, the whole commercial plaza off of I-20 exit 20 or exit 24, and it's west of Talbert Drive. In 2023, the City Council unanimously approved the applicant allowance to install the gravel parking lot area with a condition of an annual review. Staff does recommend approval for this request because the gravel parking lot area hasn't caused any environmental or public health issues since the installment of last year, and the variance gravel surface area has not posed any dust-related problems enough to I guess tip off staff for any runoff issues or anything like that.
So I think the thinking behind this when it first happened was you have someone coming in with, in a sense, almost a temporary type business. It may not be temporary, but there's no big infrastructure, brick and mortar. And they're selling sheds and swing sets. I think the swing sets were addition. And do you make our development guidelines would normally say you've got to pave all that. But we made an exception based on the circumstances with the idea that they'd come back a year later, see how everything went, and you just said no environmental issues. And in this case, you don't have the water runoff either. I mean, you've got permeable surface, so the water's going into the ground, so it's not like you'd have to make arrangements for stormwater and everything. Okay, any questions by council? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 15?
Just have to have a public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, public hearing. That'll come back tonight.
Yeah, legally, I don't know that we really don't have to have a public hearing. We've already had it. You've just put a condition that he come back before you every year. I think he asking that condition be removed? Yes. If so, then I think it should stay on tonight so he can address council. And
Okay, so then his desire is to see, do I have to come back every year, or can y'all, and my guess is he'll be here, so, all right. So we'll bring it back tonight, so we don't have to do the hearing, but he is asking for a change, so we really should. Okay, all right, so that'll come back for tonight. I don't know if this got mentioned at the beginning of the meeting as I was waiting for the train on my way here, but did y'all mention where our city manager, interim city manager Diana is? Ms. DeSantos is at City Manager Boot Camp in Jekyll Island. New city manager boot camp. I don't know what they do to them, but it sounded like a really good idea, and I had talked to another local city manager and connected the two of them together. He is down there too. He's a city manager, and he says it'd be fine with me if Ms. DeSanto shouted me, because I've already been doing this for a bunch of years. He's going to be down there because there's also a separate conference. So that's a good thing, but my understanding is she will be here on Zoom as long as everything works at the 6 p.m. meeting. So I wanted to make sure that got said because I wasn't sure if it did. What's next?
This will be the proposal for the Falcon design. Diane had asked me to stand in for
Oh, there you go. Okay, you're doing the Falcon design. Okay, all right, got it.
So I am Hal Birch, Public Works Director again. I am not Ms. DeSanto. So the purpose of this proposal is to seek input as to the council's design for a traffic engineering report at the intersection of West Bankhead Highway and Rocky Branch Road. This study is required by GDOT to determine if a mid-block crossing is warranted and what traffic control would be warranted based on GDOT's guidelines. If the study determines a crossing is warranted, the city could then install a mid-block crossing via a special encroachment permit. During a council meeting earlier this year, a constituent residing in Ward 2 asked if a crosswalk was feasible at the intersection of West Bankhead Highway and Rocky Branch Road at Villa Rica High School to assist students crossing the street. This request was submitted to GDOT, and we were notified there was a project in the works to construct a roundabout on US 78 at Rocky Branch Road intersection that will provide full pedestrian accommodations. This project is scheduled to begin around March 15th, 2027. In order to address this request below, the city was advised that a mid-block pedestrian crossing on US 78 prior to the roundabout construction was an option. However, this would need to be supported by a traffic study conducted by a professional engineer showing this is warranted and traffic control is warranted based on GDOT's guidelines. This proposal consists of a traffic engineering report to include a traffic and intersection evaluation study performed for the proposed mid-block crossing. New data will be collected, and documents will include traffic volumes, growth rates, crash analysis, and alternatives analysis in accordance with GDOT standards. Staff recommends approval of the traffic engineering report to determine if a mid-block pedestrian crossing on US 78 at Rocky Branch Road is warranted and traffic control is warranted based on GDOT standards. Depending on the results of the study, the city would then pursue a special encroachment permit process. And certainly the difference between this and the median, as earlier, although it does state that it will be part of the project in 2027, is certainly what does Jeff Reese used to say? It's about the kids, right? So we're talking about pedestrian crossing, we're talking about kids here, and so we would certainly recommend that we at least do the study and see if a mid-block crossing is warranted there.
This has been talked about for a while, too, because GDOT would never give us a traffic light there. And this is the complication of Villa Rica, where you have state roads coming through everywhere. So we can't just go change anything on these roads. We have to go to GDOT for permission and basically do what they require us to do before we can get the thing we want to get there. So I'm sure council may have some input on this because of the years of kids leaving the high school, maybe going over to Dairy Queen or somewhere else, and they're having to cross 78. Y'all have any input or comments on this? You like the idea? You think it's horrible? We shouldn't do the crosswalk? I don't know.
Well, I think we'd be waiting 3 or 4 years to see that show up, since they're not even going to begin until March 15, 27. So if we want to do it now, we're going to have to do the study.
I'm guessing there's no one opposed to moving ahead with this. Okay, then we will make that consent item number 15.
Thank you.
All right, I'll go over the agenda and read off the consent items. If I miss anything, please let me know. We'll correct it. All right, consent item number 1, that's city council meeting schedule, that's 1. Number 2, Hickory level. Number 3, the extension of the moratorium on the vape shops, tattoo parlors. Consent item number 4, the reopening of Meadowlark Drive. Consent item number 5, the holiday schedule. Consent item 6, first responder PTSD. Number 7, the grant from the University of Alabama. Number 8, the Motorola portable radios. Number 9, special response team. Number 10, the discussion of the right turn in, right turn out at Commerce Drive. Number 11, the community parking lot. Number 12, development regulations regarding low-pressure sewer systems. Number 13, the shoreline lift station redirect change order. Number 14, the water treatment high service pump replacement. And number 15, the proposal from Falcon Design regarding the crossing of 78. Anybody else see anything else? Does anyone else have anything to interject before we don't really have to adjourn, but we'll be finished. Anything?
Well, Mayor, it was brought to my attention right before the meeting that we had taken public comment off of the work session. And while I understand that we had discussed doing so at the workshop that we had recently, we never made any sort of final decision on doing so, and we never notified the public that that was what we intended to do. So I would like to recommend that we allow for public comment for now, for the work session, for anyone who would like to speak.
I agree. I didn't think we ever really made a decision. It was discussed, and to be honest, before we vote, that would be one of the primary times that people would want to say, wait a second, I have a comment, and it gives us time. If they may present something that's very legitimate that we may want to look at before we get to the voting meeting. And come January, that voting meeting is going to be a week apart. So that's the time to, if somebody brings comment forward of something you want to go research or check up on, that'd be the time you do it. So, I think we need to have public comment, yeah. I'm assuming we didn't have a sign-in sheet? I had no idea.
It was taken. It was set out, but I was told that it was taken up.
Okay, that must have been a misunderstanding, because we made no decision on that. There
That's
was only
correct.
a discussion of how to do hearings and public comment and everything else, and the timing, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was. Okay,
Mayor,
then.
if I may,
yeah,
I
yes.
mean, I own it. I was confused. I had my wires crossed as to what the wishes were of council. We have the timer coming up.
Okay.
So
No
anyone
problem.
who would like to speak, it's at y'all's will.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, we didn't have a sign-up sheet, but if you'd like to speak during public comment, now is the time. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'm not going to pull out the whole thing that I will tonight, but direct your comments to the council up here, which is all of us, the council corporately. Do not direct any comments to people in the audience. This is your time to give your opinion on something that you need for us to hear. So if anyone would like to speak during this time, now's the time to do it. Oh, and state your name and address for the record. I can't hear you. Is that on?
So, there it is.
There, that's better.
So,
Thank you.
I guess I would be on the reopening of Metal Art Drive. Joshua Evans, 640 Clearview Street, Villa Rica, Georgia. So I live on Clearview. We've talked to some folks on Clearview. We hope y'all would take that into consideration to go ahead and approve that tonight to open that Metal Art Drive back up. We all think over there that it's gonna really help out with the traffic situation we got. It's gonna alleviate a lot. There's actually 5 exits now, because we're getting the new road off of South Street, between the fire station that runs into Racetrack. So there's another exit. So there'll actually be 5 exits instead of 4. So we're hoping that opening the Metal Arc, that some of the school traffic and the apartment traffic will go out that way. I guess we're hoping it does. There's nothing making them go out that way. You can't make them, but we're just hoping it takes some of the stress off the smaller streets.
Chick-fil-A's over there.
I
They'll
think
go
it
that
will.
way.
So, yeah, I mean, if it's just a quicker way for them to hit up and go down to Chick-fil-A, I think that's, plus they can go down South Street and come to the right, and they'll be right at Chick-fil-A too. So, we would like to say, please keep that in consideration. We would like for it to be open. Several people on Clearview Street that I've talked to are in favor of it being reopened. Our biggest fear, I guess, was, hey, are they going to come back and get our speed bumps? Or are they going to take them back up? We want those down. But that's the only concerns that I think anybody had over there in the neighborhood. Other than that, I see it working out in the best interest for our neighborhood to open that up and let that traffic go out there. The other one would be the low pressure systems. So I mean, as I said before, I've got 30 years in working on those and installing them, and I've done them everything from E1 to Flight. Xylem had some at one time. MVP's had some at one time. Liberty makes one. I mean, I've done it with them a lot. And the thing is to keep in mind that once the city takes over that portion of it, there's a check valve at the street, all that stuff that the city would be taking over and having to maintain. You know, you got to keep a positive pressure on the force main at all times. There's a lot more to it. I would do my research on that. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak during public comment?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your service. It's a hard job. I think it's highly overlooked by most people. They think it's an easy job, but it's not. Actually, my only comments are about the meeting.
Name and address, please.
Greg Roberts, 2142 Burkdale Street, Villa Rica. Sorry about that. I'm really only going to, because I know I've made some comments before. I don't like the meeting setup. It makes no sense to me. So thank you for looking at making the change, but it's not going to be enough. But nothing ever is, right? So you're talking about going to the Tuesday a week out before the 6 p.m. and having it at 10 a.m. That's still not going to help the council members that work. But those that routinely miss will still routinely miss. If they're working or on a business, there's just no way around it. 10 o'clock's not going to help them. It's also not going to help the working citizen. Maybe that's the first and foremost one. So it's not really a criticism, because I appreciate you guys at least looking at it. That's been a complaint I've had for a long time. The other thing that doesn't seem to change, whether you have public input or not, I'm struggling to, I know what the premise of the work session is, but I think it's a zero yield meeting. I don't think it's a productive meeting. And here's why. The people, and this is a lighter agenda compared to maybe some of the most recent ones, right? Maybe. There may be the same number of stuff, but there's not the hot items tonight as much as usual. But here's the issue I've brought up before. The people I want to hear from are the folks representing that item, both staff, which is here, but if it's a construction project, liquor store, or some business that we all 100% agree on, we want it to come, bring it. Those people are never going to be here. They're never one time ever going to be here. It's a waste meeting to me, in my opinion. It's my opinion. We've all heard, a number of things over the years, but, and then this one last point, the old saying, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then maybe you don't understand it either. So even today, on the extension of the temporary moratorium for multifamily development, it still felt like, I don't know where the breakdown was. I don't think it was with you guys, but there was a breakdown on why the information wasn't correctly put on here. That's a problem every month, somewhere in this flow of information. It just always feels like that it's the first time you guys are hearing the information. So like me as a citizen, I read the agenda, a day ago or so, but I didn't know about the agendas because I've had no previous conversation, so I don't claim to know. But when I come and hear the council members talking about it and the questions that you guys ask in the back and forth with staff, maybe it doesn't feel like there's enough conversation going on behind the scenes. Does that make sense? So I just go ahead and make that change. The fact that you guys were willing to consider making a change is 100%, but I question the benefit of this work session when you're not going to have the developers and those people that I need to hear from, because if I come back tonight, just give me 30 seconds.
We're up, aren't we?
I know, but if I come back at 6 tonight, then my opportunity to speak is at the front. Then I'm going to hear those people talk after I have spoke. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
You can come back tonight, though, and
No,
speak
I'm not coming
before
back tonight,
they
but-
speak.
But this meeting is just not a productive meeting to me.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Amy McCoy, 9938 Ashton Old Road in Douglas County. I want to make mention, I did see on Facebook that you guys do have a town hall meeting finally coming up on Ward 1 on December 3rd. However, that's the only location I've seen that information go out. And so I noticed that you guys canceled the meeting on October 22nd, only to have a meeting on October 24th to discuss the very items that we've been asking for this community to be aware of going on that apparently has been happening for years. So we'd like clarification as why it's going to take 45 days to reach another meeting opportunity, given the urgency of the community's concerns. In that meeting, it was stated you have a deadline by the end of December. So again, we're just trying to wait till why are we waiting until the 12th hour for it again? Councilwoman Wormoth, thank you very much for making mention of the public comments. And I do want to stress that because it seems as though there was a significant amount of time in that meeting having discussions about that. But the whole purpose of having public comments is that gives people an opportunity to have their First Amendment rights heard. So taking that away, you are violating people's First Amendment rights. Yes, there is an opportunity for you to limit how long that time is, but you cannot restrict anybody from public comments. So I just want to make sure that we note that, even for staff to be aware of that, that sheet should always be out. Thank you.
During public comment, we don't engage in a back and forth, but if I could just clarify one thing, as far as the community meeting that's coming up, it's my understanding that there will be hand-delivered notations because Facebook would not be enough, or a website would not be enough to get word out to the community. And I expect that there's going to be some other things put out. I'm not sure of all of them, but I know we're doing hand-delivered letters to people.
Yes, correct. The purpose of the meeting is to provide an update as to the Villa Rica Parkway connector, the Cleghorn Street Playground, and to listen to residents. Staff has volunteered to hand deliver letters to residents of the community closer to the event, and we will also mail letters to the property owners in the neighborhood.
And the only other thing I received, I believe, was some sort of delay because of running into Thanksgiving, that there was some feedback that would be a bad time to have the meeting, but that's all I know. I was not in on that discussion or that feedback personally. But hopefully that will suffice in getting the information out to everyone. But anyway, okay.